Hello. In this video, I'll be drawing the gesture and structure of a mosquito. This mosquito is thanks to courtesy of James Reben. I'll put a link in the description. Its specific name, which I'm probably going to totally say wrong, is Culiseta Impatiens. It is a mosquito for all intended purposes. So, this mosquito, he is very interesting. We're seeing a very interesting angle with it. So, it's an insect, 6 legs. I do highly recommend that whenever you draw a bug, you Google an image of the given insect or arachnid's anatomy, so you have it on the side, so you kind of have a general understanding of what you're drawing. It does help to understand what certain things are. So I'm going to start with the head, which is like surprisingly small. It's like right here, and it's like a very small ball. Let me do that again. I may have to move the image a little out of the way. So the interesting thing is that usually mosquitoes, I mean not always, but this one, its wings are down. So you have the head, then you have the thorax, which looks like a ball. I think I should have made it a little bit smaller. Now, let me do it one more time. One more time. It's a bit too big. I kind of like that. Then you have its abdomen, which is interesting because usually near the end it kind of like points off, but based on the perspective I'm seeing here, it kind of just looks like a sausage or like an oval, which is really interesting. Made it too thick. It's a really thin type. Still not liking it. Not liking it. Gonna do it one more time. Maybe a couple more. And kind of like that. So, because it's a side view, I would kind of like draw a partial ellipse to kind of show how it's all connected, but it seems a bit, well, I'll draw poles to try to show like where the connections are. More often than not, you kind of do have like a little, like, I'm not sure what you would call it. You have like a connection between the parts, so the insect is all fused together. So I'll also draw a small ellipse for the proboscis, which I will draw soon. It's very interesting. Mosquitoes have like a very long one. If you look in the image where my computer mouse is, it's obviously it's a mosquito, so it's trying to get blood. I should make it longer. Kind of like that. I'm going to redo that one because I think it's a bit more like an S-curve, and I don't think I did that justice the first time I did that. I'm like drawing ellipses along the proboscis to kind of keep myself oriented when I actually do draw it. So it also has an interesting eye. I'm gonna leave that off until I try to lay out other gesture. Our mosquito has 2 antennae, which are really long for what I can guess would be for feeling around. It's a bit longer. I'm kind of underestimating it. So, our mosquito, it's an insect, so it has 6 legs connected to its thorax. And man, mosquito legs are very thin. Obviously, there are other ellipses on the back that we can't see because we're only looking like at a side view. Like we can see a portion of the mosquito legs, but we can't see all of them in this photo. I kind of want to make them a little close together. Okay, now the interesting thing, I'm going to start with the portion of the leg that we really can't see all that much. And I did that. I'm trying to keep in mind how it flows, and I'm seeing how like it kind of like stops for a second, then it kind of like goes down, but I'm also seeing it gets very close to the abdomen, and then it like curves off. So it kind of looks about, let me think. Should be further down. Kind of like that. Oh, I also want to draw an ellipse to show how its wing connects. Like you're gonna have like a pilot hole, even though it would be kind of thin for the wing. And our mosquito has, I'm not sure if they have 2 wings. I think they just have 2. Which is kind of hard to see. And the wings are very, very gestural, meaning that like it's a very interesting shape. And the other thing is the wings are kind of like folded on each other. So I'm going to do that one again because it partially covers the abdomen when you're looking at it, and then it kind of has like a shape like that, and then it kind of like goes up and kind of like does that, even though I made it a bit too wide over there. But I will try that again. And I want to make sure it connects to that pilot hole that I drew. If you were to draw the other wing, which you can't see all of it, a lot of it is obscured because it's like laying on top of that other wing. So I kind of just like, you could as a practice if you wanted to. It's so hard to see. And I mean, if you want to get into the detail, you could just you could see a portion of it that goes through it. I mean, it pretty much just like overlays it and connects back to that wing pilot hole. Okay, so now for the leg. So the interesting thing here is I can kind of see, not obvious, but if you look really closely at the image, you'll see that the legs of the insect, they're all kind of like stemming from the bottom, then they're kind of going up, which is important to note because it's interesting. The legs are like really long, and I wonder why. Like, there's got to be some logical reason for why mosquitoes are like that. And I'm trying to keep in mind, like, I made a mistake here. If you look right here, when I'm putting in that leg, or the line gesture for it, it shouldn't be covering the proboscis. It's kind of like partially going over the head, but it's not obscuring any of the proboscis. So keep that in mind when you're doing it, because it kind of like does that. Then that leg kind of just goes like straight down. Well, let me do that one again. Kind of like that. Back leg here kind of goes like up, then down, then like that, kind of. And we can't see the back middle leg. It just kind of like, based on our perspective, it just kind of like goes up, then goes down in a stick-like shape. And the front right leg kind of just goes like that. So that's like the gesture, or the gesture that I'm seeing of our mosquito here. Okay, so at this point I'm going to move on to structure, and I wanted to get its eye. Now when you look at its eye here, it kind of looks like a form that kind of sits on top of our ball, so it's like a bit bulbous, and we're seeing like a portion of it, so it's kind of like a teardrop shape. Not a teardrop shape, but more like maybe like a ellipse. Like, yeah, let me do it more justice. It's an interesting shape, and I'm really trying to see how it lays on top here. I think I liked it better the first time I drew it. Kind of like that. Now, one thing I may have missed near, like, if you look at the image really here, near the proboscis, there's like another little tube that I didn't see before, and I should have drawn a little hole for it, and like I should have, like, it's just like a very subtle shape. Looking at another image, I maybe called a pulp. So I have its eye, and our mosquito, it's going to have another eye. You really can't see it that much, but it kind of looks like you can see it. Maybe that's the antenna, but it's going to have another eye on the other side. You just can't see it, but it is definitely there. So it's always important to just know that it's there, even if you can't see it. I'm going to work on the proboscis now. Now, going back to this image, I think I made the ellipses for the gesture a bit too large, when it should have been a lot smaller. So I drew smaller ellipses, and I tried to connect it to that. And now, you know, comparing it to my reference, I think I should have made it. A longer S curve. I didn't really do that justice, and it kind of like caps off at the end. And here, like, it kind of does that, but I should have been better with that. Kind of like that, and I should make that end a bit more curvature. Like, I want to follow the shape of the proboscis that I'm seeing here. Kind of like that. Now, its antenna, I'm going to cap off the end shape for that antenna. I'm going to cap it off for that one. And it's very thin. So, like, I don't even feel like I could... I feel like if I just stick to it, I can just kind of do that. And I think I made the antenna a bit too thick. A bit. The other interesting thing is I see these hairs on it, which probably help it. They're like very, I feel like they're significant for feeling. And they all kind of like follow like a very similar branching flow. If you look, they're very thin, and it kind of looks like the higher up you are, the smaller they are, and kind of the more you get down with it, the kind of longer they get, or they kind of branch out. But maybe it's just me that's seeing it. And I think I kind of spaced them a bit too close together when they should have been a bit more far out. I think I may have jumped too large of a size. I may be drawing them a bit large, and so you may want to think about how you represent it. I'm also using a drawing tool that kind of maybe drawing too large, and if you had like a pencil that had a thinner lead size, it may be appropriate to do it for that. Like they make lead that's like really thin if you wanted to get into the fine detail, but like I really can't do that when I'm drawing with a 4. Like I mean I could go to a 1 if I wanted to and kind of do that, but I wanted to keep my drawing at 4 to get the big picture, because I want to focus more on the big picture stuff. So the antenna over here on the other side, it's really thin. It's a bit out of focus. I mean, still a really good photo, but I mean, for this case, it's just, it would follow like the same logic of the other antenna. You could think of it like a puzzle. Kind of like that. And you could see that it has like the hair at the base. And you know, it follows through as we go up. Like I tend not to focus on this detail. Like I don't really like to focus on hair, considering the general construction of our mosquito. So the other interesting thing here is regarding construction. I think I maybe should have made the eye a bit like taking up more of its head, because now that I'm looking at the photo here, I can see that the eye it looks like it's taking up half of it based on our perspective here. Now, the other thing, it's hard to see, but I think the ball kind of like has a bit of a different shape to it. Like it's not really so much a ball. It kind of like, it's a bit of like more egg shaped. It could just be a perspective distortion from like how we're viewing it compared to if you were viewing it from like top down. The other thing here is I didn't like put the wing. I think I should have like easily folded the top wing more, because like the wing that's hidden is kind of like that a bit connected to our mosquito here. The other thing I'm seeing here is it's kind of like a bit of like a, not skin, but like a connector thing near the top of the head, like right there, that connects. It's kind of like a bit of a padding, maybe to allow the mosquito to move its head a bit. Okay, so I'm going to focus on the abdomen now, which is really interesting because I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm kind of seeing like segments on the body. Wait, let me count that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I'm seeing like segments. So I'm gonna plot. Well, no, I'll do it as I go. They're really interesting, and it's a bit obscured. Not not really obscured, but I mean just like how I'm trying to think of it from the view. They're kind of like that. That's kind of what I'm seeing. And I saw 7 of those. And I think I made them. I'm going to undo that. 2. That one really goes out a bit. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think I made those last 2 a bit too. Like I'm really trying to think of how the segments fit together, and the last one's a bit small, which is really interesting. And they have like I'm seeing like kind of like humps, kind of like that, if it makes sense. And I'll connect them to show you how they fit together. They all fall pretty logically. Our mosquito friend here. Friend, I mean parasite. It carries malaria, but probably helps the insect ecosystem in one way or another. Probably serves some vital purpose. Okay, so I connected those segments. I have that. The interesting thing, going back to the ball of its thorax here, you know, the hair looks pretty significant to me. You know, they're kind of like tufts. And I'm trying to draw them in like separate segments. They're really thin. They're kind of like, like waves. And I find them pretty important, even though they're a bit gestural. Yeah, they're very, very interesting. Very interesting. But yeah, I want to focus on the legs now. Now the legs are so thin. I mean, if you ever have seen a mosquito in real life, I'm pretty sure you could attest to that, just how thin the legs are. I feel like I want to like cap off most of the legs, and I'm always seeing kind of like a joint. Like I'm seeing like that, a sharp, and there's kind of like a very subtle, thin connecting joint. Like it kind of gets a bit thick, stays thin in other places. So yeah, I want to kind of like cap off every visible leg. You know, to just kind of like summarize it. I will try to draw. I'll try to think of how to draw through some of the forms. I keep thinking if it has its back or its right middle leg obscured or like kind of like tucked in, or maybe it's injured. It's hard to tell, but I will work with it. I think when it comes to these, I think I'm gonna like try to use ellipses to kind of show, like in no particular like order. They're like thicker, straight sticks. I'm thinking like matched sticks. That's kind of how I think about its legs, in my opinion. You don't have to stick to the way that I'm drawing the legs, but that's like what I'm seeing based on this perspective. It's really interesting. I'm guessing it has something to do with them not being detected, or like they don't want to be detected easily by whatever they're trying to suck blood from. And I kind of see that joint. But another interesting thing that I wanted to say, I feel like some people could get away with drawing mosquitoes from a much different perspective. Like, I'm drawing this mosquito pretty large, and I think maybe you want a smaller view, and maybe you would just summarize the legs as like lines. Like, I think you can get away from an artistic standpoint with doing that, but not always. Use it sparingly, is what I would say. So, interesting thing here, that leg kind of like goes down initially, kind of like that. And why am I seeing that? I'm kind of seeing, I may have made a mistake when I did the gesture before, because I'm kind of seeing like it go out briefly before going down. I'm seeing kind of like that, not that initial line that I drew. So I'll go with that, because it's interesting, because I'm seeing like a sausage shape here. A matchstick sausage shape. Oops. Kind of like that. I think I'm gonna erase that bad leg I did before. Oops, did I stick to it on that layer? Okay, where are you coming from? There we go. I think I made the leg a little bit too thick, but I'm going to roll with it. Also, I'm kind of seeing, like, I made it way too straight when there should have been, I feel like there should have been a little bit more of a curvature to it, kind of maybe like going out more. So maybe I'll just redo that entire leg real quick. So give me a hot second to do that. And I'll just do that portion again. Where are you coming from? Okay. Thanks for staying with me through that brief intermission of erasing. Now it kind of goes like that. Kind of like that for the gesture. And it's interesting, such a small sausage shape. Then I'm going to cap off that leg, which is like a matched stick. And it's so thin. You know, I'm also seeing the connecting piece, which maybe I didn't pay enough attention to on our mosquito. It's kind of like at the midway point, which I think goes to show that it's a good place to reference and maybe not try to draw the whole matched stick thing in one swoop. Which may have hurt me the first time. I think I'm making it a bit too thick. A bit too thick. But I'll roll with it. And then I'm seeing like a little connector going there. Kind of like wraps around the form to keep it connected. Alrighty. Now I'm going to do this leg here, which is interesting because about a little ways down I'm seeing that It's like a triangular type shape. Then it caps off. So the interesting thing is here is that the closer the legs are to the base, the more I'm like seeing like a thicker sausage-like shape, and it kind of begins with like a nub, kind of like how I think spider legs start. Then that initial leg is very thick. It's very, very sausage-like, is what I would say. The other thing, maybe it was a bit of a perspective distortion when I was looking at it. I'm kind of seeing like a shape that kind of like, I don't know, it kind of resembles like a bone to me, kind of like that. I'll try to keep it in mind when I'm doing this leg. Man, it's this like probably like it looks like it's thinning out. I believe it's just because of the perspective. Like it's so thin. It's amazing these things don't walk and just break their leg. Oh, it's too thick. So the other thing I wanted to say, I'm going to go back to the gesture here for a second. I think when I made that leg before, it should have been going out. It should have been like coming up a little bit more. Kind of like that. Like if I was to say, I'd put like a little ellipse here as a guide. And I think kind of like that more than how I did it before. And I think that that's what I'll follow. And I'll like cap off the leg. It's very gestural at this point, and it looks a bit thicker in the back. Kind of like that. Then I'm seeing another one of those caps very close to the leg, which I realized I messed it up again. When I'm thinking, like, it needs to go like under that wing. I'll show you. You can never. I'm going to do that one more time. It's like you can never look at your reference good enough, or I can't. Connecting that. Connecting that. It's like a very mini sausage shape, which I may have made a little bit too thick. But back to that point, that little reference point, if you could see where my computer mouse is over here, I'm seeing that like cap-like thing. Connects to that. And the rest of the leg is very gestural, in my opinion. It's a very thin connecting curve, but I think I made that a little bit too jaggy. Like that. And that. And now for the last leg. And the last leg is over here. It's really interesting. Like, it's just a little bit out of focus. So, like, it looks a bit wider than it actually is. It could just be a little bit of a blur. So, just to keep that in mind, that whenever you do, like, look at the anatomy of the insect you're doing, unless you want to go for that, but, like, you know, just to keep in mind that you sometimes may get a perspective distortion with certain insects. So I wanted to cap off like right here. I'm seeing like a bit of like a segment of the leg capped off, and a little bit further down I'm seeing that cap off. And this shape is really interesting. It's like a very thin bean shape, or it's a bit thicker near the bottom, kind of thins out. No, it's more like that. That's kind of what I'm seeing, even though I drew it a little bit larger. Which goes to show that I drew the gesture line a bit wrong when it should have been going down a bit more, and I kind of made it curved when it should have been more straight. Like, it should have been more like that. Or like a little bit more like that. I made it too thick. Keep making it too thick. Oh, it's a little bit difficult. Drawing mosquito legs. Kind of like that. There's got to be an initial connection between the body and the leg. And thinking back to when I was drawing the pilot holes for the legs, I think I drew those ellipses a little bit too large when I should have taken into account how small, like, the width of the legs are. Because, like, I don't think I did that justice when I could have gotten better at it. Okay, back to the leg. The rest of the shape is... I think I should have capped it off here. And I think I kind of made it go too far out. And, like, I'm trying to keep it a bit thin because I don't want the little bit of the out of focus area to kind of make me follow that. Because it's still a thin leg, which is the important thing to keep in mind of our mosquito. I think kind of like that. I keep thinking, no, I think that's a good way to leave it. So at this point, I believe I covered the major parts of our mosquito, the general gesture, the general important bits, even though I made some mistakes along the way, which is inevitable. But hey, I learned from my mistakes. Tons and tons of mistakes. But yeah, thank you for listening to this video. Thank you, James Reben, for this photo. It was great, really helpful. I feel like I should read a book on mosquitoes now. But yeah, if you have a question, please ask it in the comments. If you do like my videos, please subscribe to my channel if you're interested. But yeah, thanks for listening. I appreciate it. Bye.